The sealed breath. I still remember that day, as if it happened yesterday. My name is Lâm Quang, 26 years old, a geological survey technician, working for a state-owned company specializing in mining exploration. My job is pretty straightforward, mapping out terrains, measuring depths, and sometimes crawling through dark, damp places, like caves or abandoned mines. I'm not the superstitious type. I believe in science, geology, sound waves, frequencies, things you can measure and prove. But I have this one issue that no one can explain: chronic insomnia. Every night, I lie awake, my ears picking up strange sounds, like whispers rising from the ground or wind howling through distant cracks in the earth. Doctors say it's because of my abnormal hearing. I can detect low-frequency sounds that normal people miss. I just shrugged it off, pop a few sleeping pills, and carry on with life. I never thought that variability would drag me into a nightmare with no escape. It was a humid June morning in Hanoi, when my boss called me into his office and handed me the assignment. Quang, you're heading to the Hoang Tran Xuyen Mine in the Sino-Vietnamese border region. It's an abandoned coal mine from 1978, and we need a detailed map to assess reopening potential. Small team, just you and a folklore researcher for documentation. I nodded without much thought. I'd never been to that border area, but I'd heard it was a rugged spot. Mountains stacked upon mountains, with the borderline blurring like a smudge on a map. The locals there live in isolation, clinging to ancient legends. I packed my gear, geological meters, spare flashlights, a tablet for sketching maps, and some waterproof clothes. On the train heading north, I met Cici Sen Vith, a young woman joining the team as the cultural recorder. Vi was 23, gentle-looking with long black hair tied back neatly, her eyes carrying a sensitive, almost intuitive gleam, like she could sense things unseen. We chatted idly on the ride. She talked about her passion for folklore studies, and I shared bits about geology. "Do you believe in ghosts?" she asked softly. I laughed. "Nah, only in what I can hear and see." Little did I know, that statement would haunt me forever. We arrived in the small border town under a persistent afternoon drizzle. The place was wedged between limestone mountains, where the border was just a vague notion, and the air hung heavy with the scent of wet earth, mixed with old coal dust. The locals were taciturn, their faces weathered, giving us odd stares when we asked for directions to the mine. Hoang Tran Xuyen Mine. "Don't go too deep. It's dangerous." An old vendor woman shook her head. I figured they were scared of cave-ins. The 1978 collapse had killed dozens of miners. Details buried in secrecy, never publicly released. But Vi stayed quiet, jotting something in her small notebook, as if she knew more than the old woman let on. The mine's caretaker was old Els, a 67-year-old man, the last survivor from the 1978 mining crew. He stood at the gate, a rusted iron fence with a dangling no-entry sign, holding a bundle of smoldering incense, smoke curling lazily in the rain. His face was wrinkled like cracked earth, eyes cloudy as a deep well. "What brings you kids here?" he rasped, his voice like wind through a cavern. I explained the mapping job, and he shook his head slowly. "This mine ain't for measuring. There's something in there you can't see, but it hears. It hears through your breath." I chuckled, dismissing him as a superstitious old-timer haunted by memories. Vi bowed respectfully. "Uncle Els, I've heard about the ancient carvings on the walls. Can you tell us more?" Old Els eyed her for a long moment, then sighed. "Those are sealing runes. Don't touch him, remember. No one enters the tunnels after 10 p.m. That's the final breath hour of the dead." We thanked him and checked into a nearby guest house. That night, rain pattered on the tin roof, and my insomnia kicked in. The rain mixed with something else, ... a deep, hollow breathing echoing from afar. I told myself it was just the wind. The next morning, our first day in the mine, everything seemed normal. We donned masks, grabbed our lights and tools, and stepped past the gate. The mine plunged dozens of levels deep, tunnels weaving like a spider's web underground, with stagnant water pooling at our feet and moss clinging green to the walls. The air was bone-chillingly cold, even in summer heat outside. I started surveying from the main entrance, using a laser scanner for terrain, sketching the layout on my tablet. Vi trailed behind, examining the ancient carvings on the walls, swirling runes twisting counterclockwise, like old feng shui symbols mixed with mining tool scratches. "These are sealing symbols," Vi whispered, as if afraid someone might overhear. "Folklore says they're to lock away the souls of the dead from the mine collapse. Locals believe the real treasure isn't the ore, it's what they buried down there." I nodded politely. but inwardly dismissed it as bored miners' doodles from long ago. We worked until noon, munched on packed sandwiches, and pushed on. The tunnel air felt oppressive, our footsteps echoing strangely, like someone was trailing us. By afternoon, down on level 2, I started hearing odd sounds. At first, just faint echoes like dripping water from afar, blended with wind through rock fissures, but gradually, it morphed into breathing, not mine or Vi's slow, labored inhale and exhale, deep and cavernous, like someone struggling for air. I paused, switched off my flashlight to listen better. My heightened hearing kicked in, catching those low frequencies vibrating in the damp air. "Do you hear that?" I asked Vi, my voice betraying a slight tremor. She shook her head, her face paling under the flashlight beam. "No, but be careful. Locals talk about the final breath hour. Maybe it's tied to trapped spirits." We laughed it off and kept going, but the atmosphere thickened. The breathing persisted, repeating, sometimes near, sometimes distant, as if moving in the shadows. As we exited at dusk, Old Els was still there, lighting incense like a daily ritual. "Heard anything yet?" he asked, staring intently at me. I shook my head, but Vi mentioned the wall carvings. Old Els sighed. "That's the Breath-Sealing Rite to lock the breath of the dead, prevent them from becoming vengeful wraiths. The counterclockwise swirls symbolize sealing the last gasp of life. If damaged, they'll reclaim their breath bit by bit." I tuned him out, chalking it up to folklore, but that night in the guest house, sleep evaded me. The breathing haunted my thoughts, as if it had followed me out. I lay on the hard wooden bed, holding my breath to listen, but the longer I held it, the heavier my chest felt, like an invisible weight pressing down. Outside the window, rain fell, and I drifted into hazy memories of childhood nights in the countryside, hearing whispers from the earth, my grandmother saying it was ancestral spirits, but my father laughing, "Just the wind, son." Day 2, we returned, determined to finish quickly. Old Els warned again, "Don't dig too deep. The thing in there is sealed by breath. Breathe too loud, and it'll find you." I smiled, but Vi nodded gravely. We descended deeper, to level 3. The tunnels narrowed, barely wide enough for one person. The air thick with mold and old coal, stinging our noses. I was measuring a tight fork when suddenly, my flashlight flickered and died. Darkness swallowed us whole, leaving only dripping water and ... The breathing, this time, clearer, closer. "Vi, your light," I called, my voice echoing oddly. She was a few meters back, turning it on now. Her beam cut through, faint, but enough to reveal my shadow on the jagged wall. Unnaturally long. No light from behind. Why was it stretching like that? It elongated into a distorted shape, and then, it moved, independent of me. Vi whispered, "Quang, your shadow. It's shifting on its own." My heart pounded like a drum. I held my breath, signaling Vi to do the same. The breathing echoed, slow and inviting, like a lure. My chest ached, the air turning thick as syrup. We backed away, but the path seemed longer than before, walls scraping our skin in the confined space. A chill brushed my neck, like someone sniffing my exhales, inhaling my air. We burst out gasping, and Old Els looked at us knowingly. "It's heard you now. The Jiangshi, the breath-sealed one. Not the hopping kind from Tales. This is a breath hunter, sensing the living only through ... breath. Long ago, it was sealed by binding its chest and mouth, denying it air, so it hunts others' breaths to compensate." His voice trembled. "In 1978, the collapse wasn't just an accident. A miner died, wronged, became Jiangshi, and your girl's ancestors ... double quotes, he pointed at Vi, helped seal it. From then on, things turned bizarre. That night in the guest house, the breathing echoed from under my bed. I sat up, flicked on the light, swept the room nothing. But lying back, it resumed rhythmic, syncing with my own. Vi knocked on my door, pale. I hear it too. It's the Jiangshi, silent, invisible, in normal light. But its shadow stretches unnaturally, even without a source. She elaborated on the breath-sealing rite, an ancient ritual, using the living S-breath to bind the dead. My ancestors, a Chinese folk shaman who migrated to Vietnam, used their final breath to seal a particularly vengeful Jiangshi in Transiana Mine buried alive, rage unbound. If the seal breaks, it uses false breath rhythms to trick the living into breathing harder, revealing themselves. I wasn't fully convinced, but my hearing detected anomalous frequencies. The breathing wasn't random, it was a deceptive cadence, luring you to match it, then pounce. Day 3, we had to go back to complete the map. This time, I brought a low-frequency recorder, hoping for scientific proof. Down to level 5, where seals crowded the walls. The air froze our breaths into white mist. Vi pointed to a scratched room, like claw marks. The seal's broken, it's regaining breath. Then lights out. Pitch black, breathing right in my ear. I held my breath, pressing against the icy wall, gesturing Vi to follow. We froze, chests burning, ears straining. The false rhythm pulsed. Inhale, ... exhale, ... inhale. Panic surged. Childhood memories flooding insomniac nights, earthly whispers, and now, crystal clear. A frigid hand grazed my shoulder, not Vi's. I spun, seeing only the elongated shadow on the wall, sourceless. The Jiangshi didn't hop. It glided silently, hunting via breath. We fled through the claustrophobic tunnels, Vi stumbling, me yanking her up, hands clasped, water splashed, footsteps echoing like a pursuing horde. Outside, old elves waited, ashen. Did it touch you? If so, you'll lose autonomous breath gradually. Fear quickens your breath, makes you easier prey. That night, breathing grew hard. Not illness like air being siphoned from my lungs, drop by drop. Vi sat by me, holding my hand. I'm not just documenting, I'm investigating the rite secretly. My ancestors sealed it, but time weakens the bonds. It can't see, but hears breath, and now it's using yours to revive. She shared her lineage as shaman, using breath to bind the undead. The following days worsened. Breathing haunted me constantly, even midday in town cafes. Elongated shadows appeared unexpectedly, on guesthouse walls, under neon, under tables at dinner, even in mirrors. I practiced breath-holding to hide, but it fueled panic, dredging memories. Grandmother's mine, ghost tales, my father's mining death. Those whispers, had my hearing drawn it from the start. Vi attempted seal repairs. We ventured in twice more, recarving runes with a knife. But each time, unnatural cold heralded its approach. Tunnels seemed alive, echoes turning to whispers, repeating my suppressed breaths. Our final descent, level 10, untouched since 1978, air viscous, skin numbing. We found a desiccated corpse in a dark corner, mouth and chest bound in tattered cloth, etched with seals. But it, ... trembled, inhaling faintly. Vi murmured, "This is it, the Jiangshi." We tried reinforcing, but false breaths lured, shadows engulfing. I held, but Vi panicked, gasping, and it touched her. She vanished in darkness, scream echoing. I ran alone, tunnels endless, dead ends everywhere, chill nipping my heels. Now, alone in the guest house, I write this with trembling hands, breaths shallow, faltering. The sound echoes close, syncing with mine. The twist, it's not just from the Jiangshi. It blends with my own, as if turning me into part of it. Vi's gone, is that shadow hers now, or mine? I don't know if the seal held, or if the Jiangshi escaped, spreading across borders, hunting new breaths. All I know, when I hold my breath, I hear the whisper, inhale ... inhale ... Don't breathe too loud, don't let it hear you.